and welcome to another TAUS webinar. Today we'll talk about quality estimation. By the way, my name is Annemai van der Meer. I always forget to say that in the beginning, but I'm Annemai, and I'm very happy to have such a wonderful group of people here with me today. We have 3 companies representing how they are dealing with quality estimation. What are their use cases, their benefits, what were their challenges, most of all, to begin with? Because we've been hearing now a lot about quality estimation. Some of us have finally worked out how to evaluate quality, but now we're one step further already. Why do it afterwards if you can actually gain some insights in advance, quality prediction? So that's the topic today, and I'd love to have all of my fellow speakers today to do just a brief introduction of yourself. James, maybe we can start with you.
Yes. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. My name is James. I'm the manager. I'm overseeing the entire localization technical operations and the localization tool development team at Uber. And just a quick introduction at Uber. Uber is a powerful all-in-one platform that connects burner and user through the mobile apps, offering convenience and affordable way to transport most of your need. I'm excited here to be on this call to discuss our approach of machine translation quality estimators, or MTQE, and explaining why it is the crucial score we require for the numerous programs we have at Uber both now and in the future. I'm joined by my colleague Marta, with whom I collaborate closely with to ensure and evaluate the quality that we have right now, as well as making sure that the confidence score we generated are the result that we can use to continue improving our quality and serve our millions of users globally. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and we can continue with Marta then.
Thank you, and hi everyone. So my name is Marta Nieto, and I work at Uber with James. I am part of the localization experience team, meaning that my role focusing on language quality and user experience. And together with James, we are part of the machine translation program. And mainly we focus on having a solid framework, and that will be having the right tools and metrics, continue on improving our processes to have governance and monitoring. And that's a little bit why we're here today.
Thank you. Let's continue, Yuri, with you.
Thank you, Annemai. So my name is Yuri. I'm the CTO for Yamagata Europe. We are a language service provider based in Ghent, in Belgium. We provide technical writing services, localization services. We have our own machine translation department, and we do lots of technology consulting. As the CTO, I have to make sure that we stay on top of things when it comes to technology, which is a very broad concept, of course. And together with my colleague Heidi, which is joining me today, we are responsible for all machine translation operations within the company. Thank you to the TAUS team for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Yuri. Then Heidi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi. I'm operations manager at Yamagata Europe. Yamagata Europe is a European daughter of the Japanese Yamagata Group. We have offices in Europe, in Belgium and Slovakia. Yuri already introduced you to our business, so I will limit my introduction to my role within the company. My role within the company is to set up solid
Heidi,
and efficient. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There seems to be some sort of noise coming from your microphone.
Okay. Is it better like that?
No, it's like I don't know how to say that in English. The word for this noise.
Static.
This.
Maybe I should try it like that. Is that better now?
No, it's.
Let's see if we can fix it after you've completed your introduction.
Yeah. Can you understand me now?
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yeah.
I cannot hear for the moment, but okay. So I will restart a little bit because I'm not sure what was correctly translated or whatnot. So my name is Heidi. I am operations manager at Yamagata Europe. Yamagata Europe is the European daughter of the Japanese Yamagata Group. And in Europe, we have offices in Belgium and Slovakia. Yuri already introduced you to our business, so I will limit my introduction to my role within the company. So my role within the company is to set up solid and efficient documentation and localization workflows. And together with my colleague Yuri, I am also responsible for efficient implementation of machine translation in our daily processes.
Great. Thanks, Heidi. And for some point it stopped. Now it's back, and I don't know what happened, what you did differently, but yeah, we'll try to figure that out in the next minutes. An introduction from your end.
Okay, so yes, I'm Stephen Tyler. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer at MotionPoint. MotionPoint is a localization company. We provide managed services for turnkey solutions for website translation and hosting. Primarily, we also do document translation and other forms of translation. So the translation management technology that we have as part of our platform is an important area for us to be driving innovation. And with everything that's happening in the industry right now, that's particularly true as we look to see how we fully harness machine translation to release the real potential that it has to drive what we think is a next big step change in translation economics. And that's why we think QE is so important and key to that. We'll get into a little bit later say that, but yeah, that's why we're here. So also grateful for the opportunity for us to join you here. We're enjoying working with us and look forward to this discussion very much.
Thanks, Stephen. And then to your partner for today, at least, Verity.
Hi, everyone. I'm Verity, and thank you again for the invitation. It's wonderful to be here. I'm also from MotionPoint, and I've been at MotionPoint for quite a few years now. I have a background in translation. I've worked a long time in our operations and customer service team, and now I work with Stephen in our product team on expanding our adaptive translation offering, so particularly on the data side of things, machine translation post-editing, and that's what brings me to the quality estimation discussion. So also bringing a lot of knowledge I've gained in the past few years in machine learning and data analytics. So that's me.
Great, thank you. And thank you all for being here today. Before I hand it over to my colleagues, Jaap and Amir, just a very brief household notice here. We are recording the webinar, so if you don't, if you're not able to stay here for the full hour, you will be able to watch it afterwards. If you have questions, please submit them through the Q&A, and we'll try to save some time at the end. We do a very packed agenda, but we'll try to save some time at the end to do a quick round of questions from the audience. So with that, I think, Jaap, you'd like to introduce the quality estimation a little bit further. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Jaap van der Meer, founder, director of TAUS. Just a few words. Thank you all for joining us. We have quite a large audience. This is somebody wrote, I think on Slater, the hottest topic next to machine translation now in the industry, quality prediction, quality estimation. Why is that? Well, translation quality has always been the biggest USP. I mean, check out any website from an LSP in the world, and there are thousands of them. They always advertise quality as their distinctive selling argument. Of course, you know, that is the thing we're selling in the translation industry, and it's the same for internal departments in any enterprise for their internal customers. You want to guarantee the quality of your service. But how is it typically done? Well, over the past decades, ever since translation became kind of an industry, it was done by a second pair of eyes, by humans in the loop, as we call them today. People reviewing the work of the translators, and sometimes even a third pair of eyes, you know, translate, edit, proof. That's been sort of the standard approach here. And even today, when you see a lot of companies doing post-editing, it's essentially also a review of the translation, right? This post-editing. So what is the problem with this second pair of eyes, or this classic way of doing quality review? Well, there are lots of problems with it. It's ad hoc, it's informal, it's very costly, and it's not scalable. And that is what we're confronted with today, with the growing popularity of machine translation. Because we have massive amounts of content more and more companies are now taking or shifting towards an MT first strategy. Translate everything, why not? The technology is there, but then what do we do with that quality review? Well, the solution that we're presenting here today is to use machines also to do a quality review. We use machines to do the translation. Why not also use machines to review the quality? And that is what quality prediction or quality estimation is about. And that is what makes it distinctive from traditional quality evaluation or quality review. It's done by machines. And how exactly? Amir is going to give a short introduction on the technical background here. Just wanted to add, this is something that TAUS has embarked on for quite some time already. It was a natural thing for us to do. Many of you in the industry know TAUS as the originators of the DQF-MQM standard, which is a de facto standard sort of in the industry now. And many of you also know TAUS for the massive amounts of translation memory data that we collected, aggregated, and data, as you will see now in the short presentation by Amir, is crucial to this new approach to doing quality prediction, quality estimation. So over to you, Amir. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jaap. So hello, everyone. My name is Amir Kamran. I'm the solution architect at TAUS, and I was involved in the designing of this solution that we are offering at TAUS for the quality estimation. But as Jaap already touched a few points, I will also like to start with the formulation of the problem, what we are trying to solve. So as everybody is now using machine translation, and it's a reality now, but how things are being used in the industry is not like that. Machine translation is replacing everything. So machine translation is just helping the old style of human translation, but there is always humans needed to verify that, because still even for the large languages, like in the example here on the screen, English to German, models are making mistakes. So can we just use that and just rely on the empty systems, or we always need a human to review? So this is basically the main query. And as Jaap mentioned, that this is something that is very costly. So a model that can predict and guide this kind of workflow is always really helpful. So this is the problem that we are trying to solve. Then why do the estimation? So as we already mentioned, that it's automated. That means we can actually scale it much better. We can scale it for the problems that we are facing now, the kind of needs, the use case scenarios where real-time translation is needed, or large amount of translations are needed. So it can actually do the risk management the way we are packaging it. So you can create your workflows where you can do the risk management, which translation can go to the production and which translation needs another set of review or human eyes. And that can definitely automatically reduce the post-editing cost. But furthermore, with this kind of solution available, you can also use this to feed it back to the current MD models and then improve those. So it can actually work as a feedback loop for the MT models as well. And for newer languages, it's much easier to adapt these kind of systems, and then you can, for the models where the MT models are not really available or not good, it's much easier to do the quality estimation quickly, because the kind of technology we're using is not language dependent, but we can actually introduce newer languages much easier. So whenever we talk about estimation or evaluation of MT, the first thing that comes to mind is blue scores, or the way you do the evaluation of the models. But estimation is not that. Estimation is different. So there are two terms that is commonly used in MT world, is evaluation and estimation. So when we talk about blue scores or the traditional automated metrics, we are actually talking about the evaluation, in which you always need a reference set to basically judge the model that you are training. And this is something which is limited in scope, because of course you cannot always generate a reference translation. So you only have a test set of about maybe 2,000, 3,000 segments on which you are trying to judge the quality of a trained model. And then you can decide whether this model is better than the old model or not. And then it can go to the production, but it cannot judge every translation that is coming out of the model. So that's what evaluation means. But when it comes to estimation, what we are talking is a real-time scoring of every translation that comes out of the system. We are talking about a model that is trained based on linguistic features and then determine how close the source sentence is with the target sentence that is coming out of an empty system. So there is no need for a reference translation. And then this is what estimation means. And that's why it is useful, because then you can plug it into your live translation workflow, and you can actually see for every translation what is the quality of that. So how we are actually doing it, we are not really reinventing anything new. So the models and the schemes and the algorithms that are already available and everyone is using those, we are using the same kind of schemes. So it is based on bird-based embeddings and sentence similarities. And we are just trying to use the power of the data to fine-tune those models that are pre-trained, already available. TAUS has their own pre-trained models, and we are working on those to come up with customized models. So the real benefit or the real specialty that TAUS is adding is the data work. As the name suggests, data enhanced machine translation, which is a trademark of TAUS, we are more interested in what data can do for you. And this is what we specialize in as well. So what TAUS is bringing to the table, because we already, a lot of you already know that we have a big data repository, which has also a lot of different domains, and we have quality estimation already in those data as well. So we can use that data and we can combine that with the translation memories and the examples that our clients have, and then we can come up with a more comprehensive data that can that can encompass a whole domain or the kind of use case that you have. And then on top of that, we can add synthetic data. So now all these large language models are available, and some other models that we TAUS already have and built. We can use all those to generate synthetic data that can actually complement the data that's coming from the clients. And on top of that, we can generate negative examples, which is very useful for training such a model like this. Then further, we add labels based on different quality measures, depending on the client's requirement. We can add labels to the data. And then we have this HLP platform where the human workers can verify those labels and make sure that the data that we are producing, the label data that we are producing, is of high quality. And so once we have this data, we can customize the pre-trained models, the large models, to fit the needs of a client and fits the need of a use case. And that quality prediction model can work much better. To give an example, this is a graph, which is a comparison between using a general model and a customized model. So in the top two graphs, where we are using our QE uncustomized model, and you can see that there are 4 scales of quality, 1 to 4, where 1 is the lowest quality and 4 is the best quality. But in the first graph, you see that the quality is all over the place. So it's very difficult to basically draw a cutoff line that, okay, everything above this point is good and everything below this point is bad. But as soon as you introduce some customized data and train the model according to that, fine tune according to that, then we can have a clear separation of good and bad. And then that is the line where we can draw, and then this can work in your workflows. And you can say that, okay, everything that is above this threshold can go directly to the production, and anything below this threshold needs a second pair of eyes, and then you can do the post editing on that. So how we are doing it is we created a very simple API, REST-based API, where you actually send us the source sentence and the output of the MT, and you send us the language pair codes. So if you are doing it for English, French, you will send EN and FR, and then we will send back the scores for that particular segment. And you can also send us more than one target, up to 3. So for example, if you're using multiple MT engines and you wanna see which one is the better MT engine, you can send us 3 targets, and then we can score all 3 of them. We are providing 3 different scores. One is the TAUS QE generic model. Then we are also adding Comet scores. Some of you might need that because the Comet is good for model comparison. And then if a custom model is trained for you, then you will get the custom score as well. And this is actually customizable. You can in the API, you can define which model you want, which score you want back. So if you just using custom model, you can just specify that and you will get that score back. Furthermore, we also have some labeling associated with each request that you are sending. And based on that, you can actually do a filter when we will display the dashboard. And dashboard is something very interesting because it can give you a clear picture of what kind of quality you are dealing with over time. So based on different languages, based on different models, you can compare the different models and see whether the quality is improving over time or some model is not working for a particular domain. So this will give a snapshot of how the model is actually scoring the segments. And based on this, you can actually take some quick decisions whether this model is not working, whether you have to improve it, or whether you have to customize the MT model. So you can judge based on that. And we have all different kind of customization available, different kind of views available in the dashboard that you can use. We already have 2 integrations available, and we are working with more partners to integrate this API into their workflows. So for MemoQ, there is already a plugin available. So if you're using MemoQ, you can already see the TAUS quality score in their UI. And so for example, if I'm a post editor, I can see different MT outputs and I can see which one is the good one, and I can use that, and based on the score, I can decide whether to post edit it or not. But then Blackbird, which is a new tool, a tool that you can use to automate any workflow, especially in the translation industry. And there is already a plugin available that you can use for the TAUS QE API. So you can actually add the QE scores in the workflow anywhere where you want. So the API access is already available. You can already try to test with the sandbox. There are some limitations, of course, in the sandbox. We are already only giving it for 3 languages, but it's just to have a look and feel of API, how it's working, how you can use it. So maybe you want to see, you can just go there and generate a key and try to use that. But on the live environment, we are supporting 109 languages with the custom with the TAUS model. And of course, if you want to add customization on top of that, we can support as many languages for which you have some data available, and then we can generate more data and customize that. If you want to read more about the API, you can go to the documentation, developers.taus.net, and read about that. And for the pricing and how things will be, it's also available on TAUS website, which is based on which is a bundle-based scheme based on character-based pricing. So you can just go there and check that out. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Amir. So the rest of the time we'll use to learn from 3 customers, 3 users of the Estimate API. And we'll do first a round of questions about what is the problem that you're looking to solve? What is the business problem that you're addressing? And then second question that we'll ask is, please elaborate on your use case, on the environment in which you are implementing this new technology. So starting with the first, and by the way, for everybody in the audience, we try to keep 6-7 minutes at the end to answer any questions that you may have. So please type in your questions. Even if we don't get to them in this webinar, we'll get back to you after this webinar in writing. So let's start with the first question. James or Marta, whoever of you wants to take this question. What was the problem that you were facing in Uber that you felt you wanted to address with this new this new quality approach?
Yes, thank you, Chapin. Thank you, Amir, for MTQ introduction. At Uber, we have hundreds and thousands of multilingual agents supporting our millions of users worldwide who require assistance through our Uber apps, driver, riders, courier, merchant, and eaters as well. When we're onboarding and training these agents, and especially finding them, it takes several months, even quite costly to maintain them. So in order to tackle these issues, we have developed a sophisticated, comprehensive in-house machine translation endpoint. And we have additional enhancements such as language fallback, mapping, and of course, the profanity filtering, just others, so that we can hire a unilingual agent to communicate with the end user. However, as a typical quality evaluation that Amir mentioned, scores such as character F3, TER, WER, Blue Score, Laser, Comic, and TTE for time to edit. There are so many evaluation score that we have that requires human in the loop to evaluate the translation quality. But then our approach here doesn't work for us because we need a model to predict our only machine translation output in order to understand the quality that we generated when we communicate to our end users. And that's why we have been researched for months to understanding the machine translation quality and looking into how do we continuously monitor the translation quality at the MT level. And this is where we actually have a collaboration with TAUS, this MTQE program. And this program actually enabled Uber to comprehend the quality trends. And we believe that it will contribute by creating the most exceptional user experiences that the Uber supporting can support. And furthermore, not only it reduces onboarding time for this unilingual agents, training them, and ultimately reduce the cost for the long-term plan. We're also building a reporting dashboard to monitor this QE score collectively and evaluate with Martha and her team to ensure that we continue to serve our user with the highest translation ever. And then I also want to share one slide to the audiences that we have here. And just want you to know that, how we actually build this pipeline and diagrams. So you see here that we have a agent tool and that continuation with user and agent communication. And we built an MT client API that has multiple use cases, get locale, get translation. Of course, another one is called a get QE score that we actually connected to what Amir's presentation has already, a QE framework. And this framework will generate an estimated score or confidence score that responds that as an output. And then we can feed that into either an agent that can see it or to a databases that we can report as a quality trend over time and monitor the quality on even daily basis or weekly basis to ensure that the quality that we have served our end user continue to meet. We define the threshold as well to ensure that anytime a threshold is below certain levels, we will look into the quality. We can monitor the segment levels, and we will also ensure that the terminology the agent provides to our end user is matched with our star guide and glossary that we have. And we continue to build with and work with TAUS team to improve the model so that, as Amir mentioned, that after the custom training side, the prediction actually going to improve a lot by 20-30% just because of the fact that continuously monitor the trend, improving the translation quality by continuously ingesting the glossary. That will definitely to help us to look at, where the bright side is that we continue to serve our millions of users worldwide. And I would like to pass this to Martha on discussing how is her finding of our collaboration on the QE side and how we continue to improve in working with TAUS on this front.
Thank you, James. That's really very interesting because most people will think about this quality prediction feature as a way to reduce the amount of post-editing, but that's not even coming into the picture here that you're sharing. This is for real-time communication.
That is correct.
And it's more a risk management feature. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. So Martha, yeah, please add on to what James just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chapin.
Maybe you can stop sharing, James, so that we get the,
Yes.
Sorry, Martha, go ahead.
No problem. I mean, definitely when we are talking about quality and we build a quality program, having the scores, metrics, and KPIs is key for the success. So this was a necessity for us. So in a more automated world, what we need is that those machines that help us produce content, they also calculate and produce the scores for us. So with this collaboration, when we were doing the research and when we were studying with the program we were building, we were clear that the collaboration could bring like working with the state-of-the-art models, like separate the output performance, like good and bad, estimate times and cost when there's like even like posterity or like human in the loop after, incorporating risk management, understanding the baseline quality, because as James was saying, like we produce instant content, which means that we need real-time scores to understand what would be the best model, what would be the best engine, and then for constant monitoring of that. So producing automated scores at a scale has definitely been very important for us, because we have been able to prioritize the manual assessment during the training stage, or if we have any tutoring actions based on that data that we are able to obtain now. So that has been like very important for us, and maybe later I can chime in about why QE is so important for us, about the benefits it brings.
Thank you, Marta. That's great. Yeah, let's listen then to another perspective. Why don't we start or listen now to MotionPoint? Steve or Verity, what was the business problem that you were facing and that you hope to resolve with this new technology?
Yes, I mean, so for us, I think the presentation that Amir gave really sort of hit the nail on the head. That is very much our business case and motivation of trying to figure out how do we sort of maximally and smartly use linguists in a way that's as cost efficient as can possibly be and fully harnesses the power of machine translation. So, you know, just to put a little bit of painting within the lines that Amir sketched out there. So if you look at data point one for me is that, you know, since NMT tech arrived 2016-ish, you know, the quality crossed the Rubicon to be clearly useful, and translation workflows have moved predominantly from human translation to machine translation with post-edit or expert in the loop, as you talked about, yeah. And that obviously gives the linguist less to do. It's a bit cheaper. And overall, as you make that shift, it releases a 10 to 15% savings in the costs of doing translation at scale. And so that's data point one. Data point two is, but the quality's been getting better all the time. And especially as you add both in the base models, but also with domain adapted NMT models, which obviously TAUS is also in the business of helping with doing that. We also do it internally. Those models even perform even better within the domain for which they're fine-tuned. So to the point that the average time to post-edit is coming down all the time. And probably more importantly, I think for me, the key data point is that the percentage of machine translated segments that are sent to post-edit and then they get reviewed and approved with no changes being made is getting to 50% or more in some domains. So on one hand, we've had a 15% saving because of machine translation, because of the move to expert in the loop, but 50% or more are good enough without post-edit. So there's a dichotomy there. And I think the key to unlocking that gap, and as I say, releasing the next big step change in translation economics, is going to be this cracking the nut on this QE problem. Because if we can figure out which 50% don't need the post-edit with any degree of confidence, even if I can say with high confidence, this 25% of the 50% definitely don't need post-edit, that's massively valuable in releasing a next level economics that's not about the 15%, but it's about the 30 and the 40 and the 50% reductions in the overall cost of enterprise translation. So that's what we see as the business case. We want to be able to deliver that to our customers. We think it's going to be highly disruptive in the industry. We want to be driving disruption, obviously, as a company. So when I look at it, the path to resolve this is being able to score the translations and then use that scoring in the way that Amir just described, but then use that in combination with context and organizational policy, which is a way the organization can express their preference for the cost versus risk trade-off, which is going to vary from vertical to vertical and customer to customer. But to be able to say, listen, I don't want to have to go and say, this content goes machine translation only, this content goes expert in the loop, and pick a workflow. What I want to say is this content needs at least this quality, and then you figure it out. And we figure it out by doing a machine translation, quality estimating it and saying, does it meet the threshold that is appropriate for that type of quality for that customer and their particular concern? And if it does, we skip the post edit in exactly the way that Amir had on his initial slide. So the thing I would say about that is it's an issue of bringing intelligence to how you manage cost and risk and quality trade-offs and unlocking a lot more ROI from the quality improvements that have happened in MT. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So, I mean, Amir showed some really good graphs there where there's a very good separation of good from bad, but it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect to be highly useful, to drive economic return, depending on where the risk tolerance is. So at the end of the day, that's what we're about. That's what adaptive translation is for MotionPoint, it's how we unlock that benefit and use machine translation in a very smart way as part of an intelligent systems design that's powered by AI to optimize for the cost and risk and quality, trade-offs. So, and that's why we're working with TAUS, because we think it's super exciting. We think you guys are on the leading edge of this. Verity will describe a little bit later the use cases we have in detail that we're working with you guys on, but that's the business problem we're trying to solve. Yeah, interesting what you said, Stephen, that which 50% is good and which 50% is bad. Since NeuroMT, people already said, it's becoming more fluent, and now with large language models, ChatGPT, they even talk about how this new output is, producing these hallucinations, very, faking very good quality, but how do you know if there are problems? So this is something you can hopefully solve with this new technology. Yeah, thanks. Well, then Heidi or Yuri, what is the business problem that you're trying to resolve?
Thank you. Yep, I will take this question for Yamagata. So we do not have a specific problem, but we have been analyzing a lot of industry trends, and we have mirrored those to our services and our tooling. And based on those findings, I can explain why exactly we started looking into MT quality estimation. So first things first, there are two specific localization disciplines that are very important at Yamagata. First of all, machine translation, second, quality assurance. In terms of machine translation, we were early adopters of rule-based machine translation, like 15 years ago. We deployed our own Moses server for statistical machine translation a couple of years later. And I think we pretty well adapted to the big neural MT push of 2017 as well. And then there's quality assurance. We have our own QA tool, QA Distiller, which is still a core technology for our internal processes. And we've also opened it up for the localization community free of charge. So it's still pretty relevant. So in terms of machine translation, I think we can all agree that a lot has happened the last couple of years. Machine translation is really finding its way. It's breaking through. It has reached a certain level of maturity in terms of baseline quality, customization, model training. NMT solutions have never been more accessible than today. And then, of course, very important, there's the big breakthrough of raw machine translation, because all of a sudden, companies can translate content that couldn't be translated in the past because of budget and or time constraints. And there are tons of use cases: customer support, product reviews, testimonials, you name it. And this, so the whole breakthrough of raw machine translation has basically introduced a brand new quality standard in our industry, which is good enough. And the fact of the matter is that it's actually having a huge impact on the whole concept of quality in localization in general. First of all, it's changing the definition of quality. Back in the days, it used to be about perfect, flawless output.
And then he's frozen, I think. That can happen. It probably resolves itself in a few seconds, I hope.
Purpose, right? Content. Am I?
Yeah, you're back.
For a second. Yeah, okay. So I was saying that back in the days, quality used to be about checking every dot and comma and space, whereas nowadays it's all about utility to the customer, understandability, on-demand availability, customer experience, fit for purpose. That's like the new key term. Content simply needs to work for the target audience in their mother tongue. It also has a huge impact on localization QA tools. QA tools are great, they're wonderful, but they have problems and shortcomings. First of all, for example, the false positives, right? They still generate a huge amount of false positives, and spending hours going through a list of false positives is simply something that you cannot justify anymore these days, especially with this economic outlook. Second, more automation also requires more integration, right? Desktop tooling, standalone UIs, they simply are not sufficient anymore. They are not what we want.
Sorry about that. Let's see if it.
I disappeared again, right? I'm very sorry about that. So I was saying that desktop tooling, standalone UIs, they are not sufficient anymore. They are not interesting anymore. What we want is cloud first. This also applies to QA, and it's very likely that QA will become an API first service in the near future. So you probably hear me coming. Why have we started looking at machine translation quality estimation? First of all, because we have tons of raw machine translation projects, and it allows us to monitor quality in raw.
Yeah. Takes longer now. Heidi, are you able to take over, or if he? You're back.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I was basically saying, why have we started looking into machine translation quality estimation? First of all, because it allows us to monitor quality in raw machine translation projects. Second, it's an API-only service, which virtually allows us to plug it in anywhere. And third, we can actually use the data to train custom MTQE models. So we can use the exact same data that we use to train MT models for the training of MTQE models. We're basically using our data twice for different purposes, which actually allows us to create an additional layer of intelligence in our MT services. We have a wonderful use case, MT for all the right purposes, and Heidi will tell you all about it. Sorry about the connection issues.
That's good. Thanks, Yuri. But you will say that, Heidi, in the second round of questions, right? Good. We'll come back to that. Thank you. So all three of you have different perspectives, different but similar, of course, business challenges for which you chose to work with TAUS on this new technology. So we'll go for the second round now and ask each of you to dive a little deeper and describe your use case. And we welcome you to also elaborate on the challenges, what makes it so hard to make it all work, but how rewarding is it at the end of the day, hopefully. So we'll start with Uber again. So will it be you, Marta, or James again first?
I can speak first, and
sure, yeah.
I can take over. For the business case and benefit, it's a huge benefit that we see as Uber, especially that we're planning to move some of the content types and languages to machine translation only custom translation pipeline. And there are various initiatives on the table, especially to address the cost, as well as the flexibility that we have working with both internal stakeholders and our user worldwide. So I will supply with two use cases that we have that may benefit for us in the short term and long term. The first one, of course, is optimize our translation pipeline to serve our internal stakeholder, giving them the tool that they need to serve their contents directly to the machine translation workflow. This is to build the confidence score directly to help them and us to systematically pick out the best MT engine model and serve the translation output for them. We have various initiatives to work with different stakeholders from different line of business and different content type. And based on the language pair that we have, we can generate a different output. But as we know that there isn't one MT for all content type and line of business, and also language pair that we serve. over 50 plus languages. Therefore, we have multiple MT that we can display this machine translation for them. However, having that many machine translation output, it's very, very nice to have, or I can say that must to have this QE score to predict the output and to generate a score. Using a score, we can definitely populate which of the quality of the translation machine model that we have to serve our stakeholder. Therefore, that they can actually either pick the best one, or we can display the best score with the best translation for them. So that's one of the use cases that we believe that our stakeholder will be thrilled to have. The second one, of course, as I mentioned in the previous discussion, was to serve our user worldwide and of course with the enterprise customers. We want to provide them with the flexibility to communicate to each other from SMS, support channels, web channel, any communication tool that we have, that we can definitely use that as a medium between the communication channel. And machine translation is the best tool, best model to serve that channel. And having that model and that channel to communicate between each other, we need a score, a confidence score to build on top of it, so that as a user, as anyone, even myself as a user, I want to make sure that the communication between each other is understood, not to be on the bias side, because we want to make sure that gender, ages, the right audience that we speak to and communicate with has the correct context. And using the model that we train with MTQE, we can narrow down and provide a much better communication tool with a quality estimator that we service to our side, and then we can continue to model to that. And because we have this tier 2 machine translation service within our side, we want to make sure that both the infrastructure level, the basic query that we serve to our end user, and also at the second level that we want to send to each individual user at the regional city level is comprehensive enough. The QE score is helping us to drive that front so that we can continue to monitor that. In the long term, it definitely help us to reduce the cost. That's because we can start removing ourselves from the post-editing side, but continue to monitor the MT only translation down the road.
Thanks. Yeah, great. Anything to add to that, Marta? Or?
Well, just mainly like to briefly add to that, how we are doing that like on the quality side, right? So our internal framework, was including quality evaluation, and now of course it needs to include quality estimation, specifically for like this use cases that James was saying, and also because we need to build the best solution to monitor the quality and govern it in a reference lab situation, which until now was not happening, right?
Yeah.
So looking into like what QE can provide to us and setting all the framework with it, so we have like the right threshold to triggering actions for it, it can help us to continue like monitoring and improving the strategy. Like that includes like model retraining, engine change, like asset update. So why is QE so important for us? Because now we are able to have the right metrics to measure quality, like language evaluation scores are no longer suitable for MT only, for the LLMs, because of the references. So quality estimation scores are the way to go. That's a transition, and that's what it's going to be happening. Also because QE is a customized score that it's fit for purpose. It's based on our trained data and for this specific domain, and that's key for the success of the quality. And of course, like real-time data to monitor and make like decisions internally with our stakeholders, ourselves for the monitoring. And it helps us to pose the right questions, like what those low scores might mean, like, do we have the right models? Is that language suitable? Do we have the right workflow? Are we rightly training for the domain? So we are able to gather all data with the QE scores.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's turn to MotionPoint. I think Verity now to elaborate a little bit on your use case.
Yes, thank you, Yap. So for us at MotionPoint, we have a large customer base of different companies, and across that customer base, we see different levels of risk tolerance when it comes to quality. So we might have large e-commerce companies for whom it may be unacceptable to have any poor quality translations showing on their website, down to small to medium businesses where maybe it's okay, maybe it's a bit acceptable to have something slightly lower quality. And even on the same e-commerce website, you might see like high visibility landing pages where you need notch quality, or you might have a product page that's buried deep and obscure somewhere and nobody ever really reads it. So that risk tolerance may vary even within the same website. So we're really seeing two use cases for our customer base. The first one is risk mitigation for finding the examples of the worst machine translation. If you're risk tolerant, we find what's really bad and then we post edit that. And then the second use case is customers who may need more of like a fine-grained dial to have different quality levels across the site. So maybe in one area of the site, you need 99% quality confidence, and then in another area, maybe 90 is okay, or maybe 85 is okay. So we're really looking into both of those, and we're working with TAUS at the moment to evaluate the QE API. So we're using an experimental methodology at the moment. So I'll explain a little bit about what we're doing there. So currently we have a great team internally who are experts on training machine translation models for our domain adapted DeMT. So we've taken one of our customers for which we have a lot of training data, and we've trained several different models. So we've trained some with less data, some with more data. So we have good and bad models that we can evaluate for that specific language pair and domain. And the TAUS team has also taken the data set for that customer and have trained a custom QE API model to predict a quality score for each machine translation. So what we like about that, what TAUS is doing is that they're taking into consideration things like the glossary, the non-translatables list, things that we do in our training as well for fine-tuning. And then for our testing, we've taken a test set of around 200 segments in the source language, and we've run that through each of the models. And then with the TAUS API, we've obtained a quality confidence score of 0 to 1 for each of the translations. And then as we're analyzing the results, what we're really looking for is the correlation with human scoring. So we have, for our first use case, we have one type of scoring that says, do we need a post edit or not? Yes or no, so that we can kind of see that correlation with the scores we're getting from TAUS. And then the other type of scoring is using the MQM or DQF framework to classify the errors by typology and by severity, so that we can kind of see the correlation for the second use case, like how closely does it really correlate on the high to low spectrum. And I will say we're seeing some encouraging results. We're not finished yet, so we're still in the process of doing some of our human scoring and refining the TAUS model. But broadly speaking, we're seeing things that got highly scored by humans were highly scored by the TAUS model, and things that were low was scored low by TAUS. And we had a very bad one, and we got a TAUS score of 0.3, which we like to see, because that was definitely really low. And I would also say, like, one of the things that with neural models that we see in general that is tricky is with glossary adherence. So that's the fun of neural machine models. You can feed them the glossary as part of the training or tuning data, and most of the time they'll respect them, but you can't really guarantee that they will. So one of the things that TAUS QE has been good at is spotting examples of where the glossary hasn't been followed, or that the non-translatables haven't been followed, and things like that. So we certainly see like a good fit on use case one, and then, as I said, we're working on honing that a little bit more for use case two. So that's what we're up to.
Thank you very much, Verity. That's very clear. Yeah, as always, of course, we're running a little out of time, but Heidi, I think you will be able to elaborate and go a little quick on your use case, if I may ask so. Yeah.
Okay. I hope the sound is a little bit better now. I tweaked my settings.
It's good now. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So the use case I will explain about concerns one very specific machine translation project for a big Japanese car manufacturer, where we receive warranty claim content in non-European languages on a daily basis. And this warranty data needs to be translated into English for evaluation by the European head office of this car manufacturer. This warranty data is very sensitive data. It is extremely valuable to the customer, as it is used to detect production errors and to organize recalls. So for that reason, expectations regarding understandability and translation accuracy are very high. For example, if several dealers or several countries report a production error that can, for example, lead to physical injury, it is really crucial that we translate it correctly, because if we don't, it might go undetected and lead to quite some detriment, disadvantage for the customer on the long term. On top of that, the warranty data that we receive is user-generated content produced by dealers in several countries. So we have no control at all over the source text. And we see several issues such as spelling mistakes, grammar issues, unusual abbreviations, punctuation issues, etc. So in short, the data that we get is not very clean and not very fit for translation. So we had to install several processes to clean up the source text to make it fit for translation. So during the years, because this project has been running for several years, we managed to automate the complete source cleanup and translation process and to take human intervention out of the workflow, except for the last step, which is the quality check before delivery. So due to the sensitivity of the data, the quality step is currently still a semi-automated process, which means we run a quality checks or a number of quality checks, and the reported quality issues are checked by our quality team and corrected when needed. In many cases, the reported issues can be ignored since these are false errors. But in some cases, we have to correct serious mistranslation. So detection of mistranslations is really crucial in this step of the project. So to automate this last crucial step in the workflow, we have set up a proof of concept with the TAUS team to investigate whether the estimation API can take over this quality check in such a way that we can break the automation only when a serious quality issue is detected. And in all other cases, the project can run fully automated. So at the moment, the current state of our POC, the first training cycles are finalized, and I think I can say the results are promising. So within, it's just a matter of time or a matter of weeks, I think, before we can put the API in production and finally have the whole flow automated. And then, of course, the next step is that we can start looking into other MT projects which can benefit from this automated quality estimation with TAUS API. I hope it's short enough, Jaap.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yeah, good to hear. Big saving. Great. Annemai, I don't know if you're still there. I hope so. Do you see any questions? And is there anyone that really jumps out that you would like to bring forward?
Well, I said at the beginning, we have a fantastic group of people here, and we really do, because they have been answering the questions while they were speaking. So I do see two more questions come in. A question about error annotation. If I plan to train the engine, I should get as many details about the occurring errors. Can you provide that? Or is the human still needed for this? That is a question, I think maybe Amir.
Yeah, I can do that. So at the moment, the models that we are training are just scoring the quality. We are not really predicting any errors. But yeah, because we are doing customization, so that could another way of labeling the data. So if we can label the data with the error types, then we can also generate that. But this is not the use case currently we are trying to solve.
Yeah. And then finally, in the last minute, a question here. If this system needs a second pair of eyes, if you need still the humans in the loop there.
Yeah, so I think definitely this is not really trained to say that only machine translation outputs can be scored. It can score any kind of source to target similarity. So even if it's translated by humans, it can give you a correlation. And what we were doing in TAUS is that for the data repository that we have, or the marketplace we have, this is part of our cleaning process as well, that we pass everything through a quality score. So even if the translation memories that are coming into our data library, which is human translated, we can spot errors. We can spot serious errors based on evaluation scores, estimation scores. So this is really useful in that scenario as well.
That is the history here, right? We collected over the years 70 billion words in 600 language pairs, and we had to find a way of automatically checking and cleaning that data. That's how we came into this game in the end, So we brought that 70 billion words down to 25 billion and further down, squeezing it into high quality. So that's the history here of the TAUS Estimate API in a way.
Yeah.
If there are any other questions from the audience, we'll address them in writing after, and if they're specific to one of the panelists, then we can route them to you. But we're right on the hour here, so I'd like to thank Marta, James, Yuri, Heidi, and Steve and Verity very much for joining us today. I think it's been very enlightening, very good education for a big audience here today. We had well over 300 people registered for this webinar. So thank you for helping us to spread the word, and have a great rest of the day or a great evening.
Maybe a final pitch. Of course, we have more webinars. Today we talked about the DeMT estimate part, but tomorrow we have a webinar together with Microsoft to talk about the DeMT translate part. So if you're interested in that, please sign up. And next week we have another webinar to talk about the large language models and what these mean for us in the translation industry. So make sure to sign up if you haven't already.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Bye-bye.